In a previous demonstration, we created a software update group and we distributed that software update group against a distribution point, and we also done a scan or a summarization, and we found we had one device that is non-compliant. So we've distributed the software. Now what we need to do is just deploy this against the client. So in order to do that, we're just going to create a deployment. So I've come into my configuration manager console. I've come to my software library workspace. I've come to software update groups. I've highlighted the software update group, and now what we're going to do is we're just going to deploy this. That brings us into a wizard. So at this point here, what we want to do is just modify the setting up here, or the name of the deployment, because it's not really very friendly. I'm going to change the security updates -Windows 10, and what we're going to do is we're just going to target this or deploy this against our all Windows 10 workstations and select OK. Happy with everything else, we'll just select Next. On our deployment settings, we are going to ensure that this is required. And then what we're going to do is we're happy with the detail level for any status messages and select Next. In the case of scheduling, we're going to do everything as soon as possible. So we're going to do that based off client local time. So we're going to make the software available as soon as possible, installation deadline as soon as possible, and select our Next button. Then what we're going to do is just in the user experience, I'm fairly happy with displaying in Software Center and showing all notifications. I'm not really bothered about any deadline behavior because the deadline will never be reached. Made it as soon as possible. I'm not bothered about suppressing restarts. It is a lab environment, so we'll restart when we restart. We're not using Windows embedded devices, so that tick box is really irrelevant to us. And the software update deployment reevaluation behavior upon restart. So all they're saying at this point here is if any update in this deployment does require a restart, run the update deployment evaluation cycle after restart, see if there's anything else. And we'll select Next. In the case of our alerts, let's generate an alert when client compliance is below 95%. And alerts are generated based off an offset as well, so happy with 7 days. I'm not using Ops Manager, so I won't turn on either of those tick boxes, and we'll select Next. That just gets us to our download settings at this point here, so we're not actually going to modify anything. We're happy with deployment options. At the top here, do not install software updates based off boundary group neighborship. And then also as well, when software updates are not available on any distribution points in the current or neighbor boundary group, client can download and install software updates from distribution points in the site default boundary group. Yeah, we'll leave that as the default of download and install from the default boundary group. Down here, if software updates are not available on distribution point in current neighbor or site boundary groups, download content from Microsoft Updates. Don't have internet connectivity, won't turn that on. Don't have internet connectivity, so I'm not really bothered about clients on a metered internet connection. Once we're happy with all of this, what we'll then do is we'll just select our Next button, and just on our summary page, we put in some information relating to a deployment. Now, one of the things we can do is we can save that off as a template with all the settings already in place. Save me having to go through that again. So yeah, let's save this off as a template and just give it a name. So we're going to call it Security Updates -Windows 10. We'll click Save. Happy with all of this, select Next. It's progressing through, should happen fairly quickly in the case of the progress. So we'll select our Close button. And at this point here, what we've now done is we've now deployed this security update. So let's just look at Deployment tab. Yep, Security Update, all Windows 10 workstations. So the next thing we'll do is we'll just jump across to lon-cl1, and lon-cl1 is our client device, and we'll push the updates out to that client device. On my client device, all we're going to do at this point here is come to our Actions tab, and what we want to do at this point here is we just want to run our machine policy retrieval and evaluation cycle, so we'll just run this now. Happy with all that, we'll just select OK, so we'll just give that a couple of minutes just to wait for that to run through. Now we've run that, we'll run our software update deployment evaluation cycle, being the next one to run, so we'll select OK at this point here and run that. OK. As we can see, practically instantly software changes are required, so let's just click on this just to see what's happening. So we're now downloading and installing software. So we'll just select OK just to get rid of the config manager client. We'll come back to Software Center. And what we have in Software Center, once this loads up at this point here, we should see that we're now installing that software update. So here you go, there's the updates. We're now installing the update. This is just going to take a few minutes just for this to install, so we'll just pause the presentation at this point here and return back when there's something to see. So what we can see at this point here now is cumulative update has been installed. We can see it does require a restart. So if you just click on the update, and what we'll do at this point here, we'll click restart. Happy that the computer must be restarted. I have saved all my work, so let's restart now. This is going to restart the computer. We'll return back after the restart is complete. So the client machine is now rebooted, so let's just log in. As you can see, the client's back again, so now let's just go back to our config manager server just to verify through config manager that the update has actually installed. And all we'll do at this point here is, now this has restarted, let's just go to our monitoring workspace. Now our monitoring workspace, all we're going to do at this point here is we're just going to look at deployments. So we'll click on deployments. Now what we can see at this point here is we can see security updates, all Windows 10 workstations required install. So currently compliance is none. But if you remember from earlier on in the demo, one of the things that we have to do is we do actually have to run summarization because we need to get the state back from the client machine. So we'll run summarization and we'll select OK. We'll leave that to run for a couple of seconds, and then what we'll do is we'll just click the refresh button. So what we can now see is security updates Windows 10. If we look down now compliant, and that's the end of this demonstration of deploying software updates through Configuration Manager. Thank you.